be here. I'll warm up for Brad and for Brian over there. So this room here, I came in here and I walked in the room. The last 3 times I've been in this room has been with my son's Little League team. I coach their teams, and so we always seem to end up at Cherokee County in a tournament, and we always seem to end up here in between games. It's not normally this quiet and definitely a lot messier than this, so it's good. I'm going to say yes. I'm from Forsyth County, so when I looked at the calendar and saw that this was just a 25-minute drive from the house, I'll be home in time to eat ice cream with the kids and tuck them in tonight, so it's good to be here. Before I get started, I want to congratulate somebody that I just saw on the Facebook is going to be a grandmother over here. Mrs. Beach, I just saw the good news that your daughter Courtney and Representative Clark are expecting a child, so congratulations. So the place I want to start and tell folks why I want to run for Lieutenant Governor, and I think probably the biggest separating factor in this race is my resume. And my resume looks a lot different than anybody else in this race. And it also probably looks a lot different than most folks who come in here to run for statewide office. My first paycheck came on a baseball field. Out of high school, I got a scholarship to Georgia Tech to play baseball. And my junior year in college, I got drafted by the Florida Marlins. And so I got to spend 6 great years in the minor leagues. I got to do a lot of great things in the minor leagues. One was I did not get to make a lot of money. But I got to work hard, I got to travel the country, and I got to understand what accomplishing a dream was all about. My wife and I met in high school, and then we went to Georgia Tech together. She went on an academic scholarship, and she was a lot more prepared for college than I probably was. And then we got married as soon as I got drafted. And so we spent a lot of time on the road, and knowing that we were not going to play baseball forever, we wrote a business plan to start a marketing company. And so 2 weeks after my career ended, we opened up our first business called Striking Solutions. And we grew that business from our living room into a 10,000 square foot facility with sales reps all over the Southeast. We were able to sell that business, and really what that did for us was create a lot of confidence in the fact that if you worked hard, if you had good ideas, you could accomplish the American dream. And so it really started an awesome opportunity for us to be entrepreneurs and to look at new opportunities as we walk through life. We're able to bring 3 great boys in here into the world, and they keep us busy. A lot of folks say, well, you got this business background. Where in the world did you get involved in politics? Where did that dovetail into this whole thing? Because I don't have the right last name. I didn't grow up in the right family. I didn't go to law school. I didn't grow up going to city council meetings taking notes. I learned how to be a Republican, like most of y'all in this room. I learned how to be a Republican at the kitchen table. I learned how to be a Republican raising 3 boys. I learned how to be a Republican growing a business. I didn't learn how to be a Republican wearing a fancy suit down at the Georgia Capitol, I can assure you that. And so politics came into my life at church. We go to North Point, and Andy Stanley had a series about 8 years ago called Recovery Road. And he challenged us. He said, look, if we're going to recover as a country, it's got to begin with us. We got to stop complaining about stuff, and we got to start doing stuff. For example, education. We want to complain about teachers and principals and curriculum, but we're not spending enough time at the kitchen table with our own kids, talking to them about how important their education is to their future, how many opportunities that education creates. We talk about prayer in school. How many folks want prayer in school? Almost everybody in the church is going to raise their hands. But the unfortunate part about that is not enough parents are praying with their kids every single night at home. Until we make priorities in our own life, until we get engaged in our own lives, we're not going to change this mess we're living. And so the end of the sermon was this: go get involved. Go make changes in your own home. Go make changes in your community, and you might even have to go run for office. So I walk out in the parking lot, I look at my wife, and I said, honey, we're going to run for office. And she said exactly what you thought she would say. She goes, I didn't hear that in that message. We got in a heated campaign against a longtime incumbent, and we won the race. And I walked in the General Assembly, probably the most novice person to ever show up there. I didn't know a single person's name in the room, not one. But what I did know is what my conservative principles were. I knew what my values were. I knew what I wanted to accomplish when I got there. And that wasn't to have a title. That was to do important things. So I sat back on the back row and I watched year 1, and I realized that the people that I respected the most were great at the relationship business. They were great at understanding other people's perspective. And so year 2, I wrote my first bill called the Cargo Theft Act. Georgia was 3rd in the nation in cargo theft when I wrote that bill. Organized crime had come into Georgia, taken advantage of our weak laws, that said if you stole a truck with expensive cargo on the back, you went to jail for just stealing the truck, which essentially amounted to a couple of months in jail. So I rewrote the laws. I put a new idea to solve an old problem and said this: if you steal $1 million or more of cargo, you go to jail for 20 years. In 1 year, cargo theft went down 68% in the state of Georgia. In 1 year. Another big idea I came up with was the rural health care bill. Georgia, like many other states, have a rural health care crisis. We can't figure out how to fund these rural hospitals. They're just trying to keep their doors open, more or less not even being able to thrive in their communities. And it's because there's a broken funding model. We all know that. So I wrote a bill that said this: corporations and citizens can write checks directly to rural hospitals. And in return, you get a 90% tax credit. Communities now have input as to how they need to solve their problems in their rural hospitals. At the end of the year, the rural hospital doesn't have strings attached. They don't have to fill out endless amounts of paperwork. They don't have to see new types of patients or fill out new reports. They simply do what their communities want them to do with those dollars. Buy new equipment, pay doctors and nurses and technicians more, build new facilities, whatever they want, up to $4 million a year, each one of those hospitals have access to raising. So why Lieutenant Governor? I think we can do it better. I think we can do it bolder. I think we can create a culture that rewards good policy over good politics. And I want to say that again, because it's not just at the Georgia Capitol, it's everywhere in Georgia. We need to create a culture that rewards good policy over good politics. And I think my resume and my perspective puts me in an incredibly good position to pull that tough feat off. I think I can lead the charge to create a culture that rewards good policy over good politics. Now look, I'm not the next guy in line to win this race. There's somebody else that's supposed to win this race. But if there's ever been a time for a person with my resume, my profile, to win a race of this size, it's right here, right now. We're watching that play out all over this country. Folks don't care about past. They care about somebody who's got bold initiatives and courage to go bring those initiatives forward. I want to address a couple of areas here. This race is going to be about a very, very sharp contrast. There's no doubt about it. My opponents have all been in office for decades. I haven't. My opponents have all voted exactly the way they're supposed to at the Georgia Capitol. I haven't. My opponents all have long, long political resumes. I don't. But as I travel the state and I talk to Republicans every day and night in rooms just like this, Republicans don't care about long political resumes anymore. They care about real resumes. They care about people who don't just talk about creating jobs. They actually know what it takes to create jobs. They're not used to just signing the back of a paycheck. They know what it takes to sign the front of a paycheck. And I'm proud to have one of those resumes that folks in Georgia are looking for. As I close, I want to address something here. I'm new to politics for the most part. I've only been in office 5 years. So this is a new sport for me. I actually like the competition, by the way, as a side note. But this is a new sport, so I want to take on a couple of misleading issues that are going on. One is my opponent's going around town saying that I'm too conservative to be the next lieutenant governor of Georgia, that I vote no too often at the General Assembly. And let me tell everybody in this room and in this county, I will never apologize for being too conservative. Nobody in this room or in this party should apologize for being too conservative. We're conservative because we know those values work. We know that we want to raise our kids in conservative homes. We want to operate our businesses in conservative communities. I'm not going to apologize. The second is my opponent spending a lot of time trying to talk about the fact that we have the same voting record 99.9% of the time. And that's false. I voted no on over $1 billion worth of tax increases in the 5 short years I was there. I've got scars on my back to show you. If you ask my opponent why he voted yes on that, he's going to tell you, well, it's because I'm in leadership. And that's what you're supposed to do when you're in leadership. I want everybody in Cherokee County to know that's not my definition of leadership. There's a better way to do this. If we're going to win this race, it's not going to be because we raise more money than anybody else. It's not going to be because the establishment shows up and endorses me every which way. It's going to be because rooms like this and communities like this are ready for a change. I won my first election in Forsyth County because folks in Forsyth County were sick and tired of electing somebody who said one thing in the district, put on a suit, got in a car, went to the Capitol, and did something completely different. It's going to take rooms and people just like this that support us for Lieutenant Governor. I want to ask for your support. teamduncan.org. Joseph's got a sign-up sheet if anybody wants to volunteer as we go along this campaign. We can be able to capture your information here tonight, and we'll plug you into the campaign. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I look forward to coming back.
Do we have any questions right now?
David Schaefer and Rick Jeffries.